Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Buddy, and his friend Peter Lavelle, who also works for RT and Crosstalk. So, Peter, the Washington Post on its front page today runs a huge article on Tucker Carlson. Carlson has become a kind of pretty much an obsession in much of the liberal media. So we had a long article about him in the New York Times recently. Now the Washington Post stepped in. Yeah. I think most gagglers pretty much know what to expect in this article. The thrust of it is he is a racist, a white nationalist, white supremacist. Everything is with Tucker Carlson supposedly about about racism. He's trying to protect and promote the white race. That's the whole thrust of it. The goal presumably being somehow that Fox would get rid of him because he's a terrible racist. But there was one very amusing thing that I just want to read out, because I think we talked about this a couple of times on the Gaggle when he had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Malley. Is it Milley? Yeah, Mark Malley, Malley. Yeah, Milley. That's right. He was on testifying before the House on critical race theory, and the author of this article quotes, and because Carlson ridiculed Milley after this performance, and here the author quotes what Milley said. I've read Karl Marx, I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist, Milley said. So what is wrong with having some situational understanding about the contrary for which we are here to defend? And I find it offensive, that some military, what he was saying here is that he was trying to understand white rage. That is why he was handing out critical race theory to cadets, people who want to join the armed forces. And then the author of this Washington Post report says, in normal times, a declaration by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs that he wanted to understand racism would not be controversial. But to Carlson, it was another opportunity for mockery, if not self-awareness of his own role. After playing the clip, Carlson laughed at the military leader's words and said, he's not just a pig, he's stupid. What in Carlson's view makes Milley stupid? Carlson, who for years has stoked an angry idea that whites are the ones being discriminated against, told his viewers he reads about white rage as if it's totally real. Well, the Washington Post reporter is missing a very obvious point. And I think we talked about this. He says, I read Marx, Lenin, and Mao in order to understand communism. Okay, you did that. But then to understand white rage, you read the people who absolutely hate white nationalism, whiteism, whatever. Well, the symmetry would be, well, if that's what he was going to do, is either he would say, well, I'm going to read the people who espouse white nationalism, and I'm going to put them on the reading list. Everyone who advocates white supremacy, whiteness, white nationalism, whatever. You can either do that, or you can say, well, I'm not going to read Marx, Lenin, and Mao to understand communism. I'm going to read what people wrote about communism. So I'm going to recommend J. Edgar Hoover, Ralph de Toledano, William F. Buckley, the sort of people who are rabidly anti-communist and what they wrote about communism. So the point that Tucker was making is that there's no symmetry here. You say this, I want to understand communism, so I read them. And then to understand white rage, I read the people who absolutely hate whites and whiteness. So I think that was the point, but it was obviously a point completely beyond the understanding of this Washington Post report.
It's such a fascinating article because it is a real lesson. It's a textbook attempt to see everything through one ideological prism. You could look at Tucker Carlson's very long career, and particularly since he got his, what did they use the term, perch at Fox News, Tucker Carlson Tonight. Tucker Carlson talks about a lot of things and not just about race. Actually, he talks a lot about class. But of course, liberals don't want to talk about class. That was their bread and butter, not too long ago. But I mean, again, they put on their rose-tinted glasses, and then they see everything through the prism of racism. I mean, I watch Tucker Carlson every single night. I have no idea why anyone calls him a racist. Criticizing critical race theory, I'm really glad that he does that. Okay, but I mean, he's more than anything else. He says we're not responsible for the horrendous acts of our fathers and our grandfathers and great grandfathers. Okay, there's no collective guilt. Okay, and I think that is true. And so when they talk about his trip to Africa with Sharpton and all the rest of them, you know, they want to turn him, they want to convert him, and he's just saying, I'm not going to be converted because I'm not going to take responsibility for something I didn't do. Okay. Yeah. And so the article is so ideologically driven that that's the only conclusion they can draw.
Right. Well, that's.
I mean, how about his hatred for libertarianism? Where was that in the article? Okay. Where was his doubt of foreign wars? Where was that in the article, George? I mean, you're making Tucker Carlson into a one-dimensional character. He's hardly that. He's actually very complicated.
That's why they wanted to do it that way, because, you know, how do you smear someone? Well, you smear him by what's the worst thing you can accuse anyone of in contemporary America? Of being a racist. You say, you know, he's a racist. And of course, you know, he does talk a lot about immigration, but that has nothing to do with race. I mean, he's basically saying, you know, that countries are committing national suicide when they just simply have open borders without any kind of control. So it's not a matter of race. You could have anybody, you know, you could have a whole bunch of bankers from Mexico, or
you can
white, you know, whiter than the whitest wall. You'd still be against it because what do you want these people for?
You can take what Tucker says now in the last couple of years, and we can say what Bernie Sanders said in 2016. I mean, would you be able to distinguish them?
They couldn't, and exactly.
Yeah.
And because Bernie Sanders said exactly. Well, he stopped saying that before.
That's right. He stopped saying.
But he did say that. Yeah, open borders is a project of the Kochs. You know, and everybody always hated the Kochs. So they say, yeah, it's a project of the Kochs because, of course, they just want cheap labor. That's it. And nothing whatever. But again, you know, the way the media want to present it is, oh, it's all about racism. No.
Did you? There was that one paragraph in it, which was hilarious to me. He talked about doubts about the election. I think it's something in reference to Russiagate, immigration, and they just listed one after another. And I just thought, well, this article isn't convincing me that the author knows the truth. Okay, did you remember that? I was just like, yeah, but he's right on that. He's right on that point. He's right on that.
I know. There was a whole list of this, and then he talked about, and he said about the NSA. He didn't present any proof. Well, he presented quite a lot of proof. Oh, he questioned about, you know, that this was the FBI was actually involved in the events of January the 6th without any proof. Well, he presented some proof. I mean, you know, he's not, you know, he doesn't have any forensic evidence that he can present. But, you know, hey, there are plenty of questions, which is what a journalist is supposed to do. But yeah, so, as you say, he listed these things. He said, okay, sounds reasonable to me.
Sounds, you know, and then the NSA, it was a non-denial denial, and anyone with 3 brain cells to rub together, because Nicole Wallace doesn't have 3 brain cells, you come to that conclusion. Tucker Carlson is not a target, and we're not trying to take this break. But that doesn't. But did you read his emails? And did somebody unmask him? They never want to get to the point.
He's the target. The issue wasn't he was a target. Is it reading my emails? That was the issue, and that was the question that the NSA did not answer. He's not a target. So yeah, no, that's right. Again, he just sort of says these things without any attempt to somehow. Well, maybe I should look into it in a little bit more detail.
Well, the article, it's an embarrassing article in many ways, because, you know, they talk about he is the most watched cable anchor, most watched program, gets up to 3 million viewers every single night. The article does not address why. Why is that the case? They never want to go there. They never want to go there. And so and what they're doing is they're trying to tar anyone that watches the program, okay? So if Tucker believes this, you must be the same as Tucker. Again, isn't it really interesting how everything is flipped? You know, I thought we were all individuals, okay, and to be judged individually on our character and our actions here. But no, we're all these clones here. I remember my father was an unbelievable, unrepentant racist, and he thought all Black people were the same. Well, apparently the writer of this Washington Post article thinks if you resemble Tucker Carlson, you must be 1, 2, 3 ABC. I mean, it's so reductionist, okay? I mean, I'm sure this author gets paid gazillions of dollars to write this tripe, okay? It was kind of well written, I have to admit. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, it's not that difficult, but it's true about many of the people who write to the New York Times or Washington Post. They know how to put together an article. It's a skill. It's not an enormous skill. It's not brain surgery, but it is a skill. But of course, for these people, whites is just a ubiquitous term. It's like all whites think the same. So like anytime a white person commits a crime, that that white person is acting on behalf of all white people, and which of course exact opposite of what we're told whenever we have an Islamic terrorist. Oh, just an individual. Don't generalize about Muslims, peaceful, lovable religion.
And it was probably because of the Russophobia of people like Tucker Carlson and his friends. Okay, again, it's all reductionist here.
Right. What happened with that guy with that horrible killing? Was it Dylan Roof? That was in 2015 when he be killing. Boom! Dylan Roof suddenly spoke for all white Americans. Says, wow! It's like all white Americans were involved in that killing. So that's the way that the media like to play this. But, yeah, okay.
But for me, the fact that they're writing these articles, it shows there's such intense frustration. See, because it is so ideological, and this is the big problem we have, is that why don't they think the way we do? Yeah. I don't understand it. I remember it was one of these MSNBC reporters, Katie.
Katie Tur, T-U-R.
And she was on, I don't know if it was her own program or not, God forbid. I mean, there's limited intelligence there. But she says, hey, this was after, it was like in the midterms, Trump's got like 80% of the GOP. What is wrong with these people? He's a spy for the Russians and all this. The thing is that do writers of these articles in the Washington Post, do they know one person that voted for Trump?
Right.
Have they ever been to a red state?
Right.
Have they gone to a diner and sat down and said, what are your most important concerns?
No, well, I mean, that's why it goes back to that famous comment. I think it was the New Yorker film critic, Pauline Kael, who said after the 1968 election, who said that, I just don't understand how Nixon could have won. I don't know anyone who voted for him. Said, of course, without any self-consciousness.
In a way, the article is extremely honest too in its hit job against Tucker, is that they can't imagine a world any different than their own. And you can't have a functioning democracy in civil society if you can't tolerate a different way of thinking. Right. And that's why you have this professional managerial class, is that everything is settled. Everything is settled. Right. Now you just have to get on board because it's settled. That's the McKinsey view. It's settled.
Well, that's the funny thing is that, of course, in such articles, of course, skip over any problematic aspects of recent history, such as, how about that the mainstream media ran for 4 years with Russiagate, and that Tucker Carlson was one of the people who was the most skeptical about the claims of Russiagate. Oh, that makes no appearance in the article. In other words, you spend all this time hunting around everything to do with Trump, finding some Russia connection, which was absolute BS. But that apparently doesn't reflect at all badly on the media. It's that somehow Tucker is at fault.
And when Tucker went on, and when he came out with his book Ship of Fools, he went on a book tour, as you do, and he was asked repeatedly about Donald Trump. And one specific answer I remember, he said, the question was something like this: is Donald Trump succeeding in your mind? And he said, no, I think Trump is a failure. So I mean, there was a lot of light between Trump and Tucker, and unlike with Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham that were in lockstep. And I think that's one of the reasons why Tucker is so popular, is that he creates his own space. Again, that's something the left doesn't understand. No, you have to be in a space with everyone else, okay? And you can't be autonomous. No one can be autonomous anymore. And I think that's one of his strengths, okay? I mean, George and I are singing the praises here.
But one of the things that is here is all of these attacks, whether in the Washington Post or the New York Times, it always seems to goes back to the same thing, which is you're always trying to present this person that you don't like, and all these ideas that you don't like. And the only thing you can ever come up with is this idea that he's a white nationalist. I mean, that he's racist, or he's peddling for racism. It's a strange thing that you're never able to articulate anything any more complex idea than that. I mean, it's similar to the attacks on Greenwald. They don't quite accuse him of racism, but it's always, oh, he's just, basically he's in with all the Trumpians. He's in with the Fox people. He's basically just singing the tune of Rupert Murdoch. I mean, amazing, completely unable to mount even a halfway serious criticism. It's always essentially a smear job.
Yeah, but wouldn't it have been journalistic professionalism for the writers of that article for the Washington Post to actually call up Glenn Greenwald and say, why do you appear on Tucker Carlson? And he'll say, well, because no one at CNN or MSNBC invites me anymore, okay? I mean, do you have the courage to talk to, you smear someone, but do you have the courage to talk to them, okay? Right. I mean, and Glenn Greenwald has made it very, very clear. He doesn't like Tucker's politics. But when it comes to Julian Assange, the national security state, failed foreign wars, empire, they find common. You can't have common ground with these people. You're all in. You're all in. And they are the enemy.
But it's interesting. None of these topics comes up in this very long article because it has to focus on that, the idea that he's basically peddling white nationalism. He's peddling racism. You can't really bring up any of these other topics because he covers a lot of ground on his shows because, well, people might think, hey, well, this is pretty good. I mean, maybe I should tune into his show. So it's always, boom, that's it. He's a racist. Everything he says is racism. Stay away from him.
Well, I think it's, people that, their reflex is you don't like Tucker because you're told to, but that article might want to, maybe I'll watch it tonight, okay? And see what does a white racist really look like, okay? No, and you'll be sorely disappointed, okay? Talking about race is just another topic in our public discourse, and if you're afraid, that means that our public discourse is becoming very authoritarian, and that's exactly what has happened, okay? It's people that need to speak up, because if they don't speak up, then everyone's cowed, and I think a lot of people feel that way. It's just not worth saying something. And so saying things that are uncomfortable, I think that's what a journalist should do.
Right. Well, that's it. And there've been attempts to get him off the air. It has failed. And he has a platform. Most people don't have a platform. I mean, most people may think they're terrified of expressing views that goes against what Jeff Bezos once put out, because they think I might lose my job. I might get deplatformed. I might be ostracized by the community. Tucker Carlson, he has a platform. He makes a lot of money. And that's why he enrages people so much.
Do you want to hobnob with the community?
No, I do not.
I don't either. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Okay. What a waste of time. any encounter with those kind of people, you'd feel stupider as a result. Okay, so. Because I'm willing to, and George and I have gone on fora where they're only progressives. We are the only two, and we're not afraid to do that. And you know what? It's very collegial and I think thought provoking. And that's the kind of discourse we have to have. George and I are willing to go and say, I'll talk to you. I'm not afraid of you. Okay, but these people won't, because it's about purity. You have to be pure. Right. No, politics is dirty, okay? And you have to get into the dirt and you have to struggle, okay? And that's how you get good outcomes. Articles like this Washington Post one is that they're so cloistered. They're so little cloistered in their little corners, okay? And they'll get a good pat on the head for writing it. Right. But it was that's what basically worthless.
And what's terrible is when you try to deplatform people, try to get people fired, try to get them to lose their jobs. That's reprehensible, and that's always the thrust of all of these kinds of articles. And ultimately, it's all about trying to get him off the air. How do you do it? What's the worst thing you can call him? Racist. And that's it. And I think it's just entirely reprehensible, to try to get anyone.
Well, we can end on this. It's people like that wrote this article, that if everything is racism, then nothing is. And they've abused this term so much, and it's a cudgel, and it's losing its effectiveness. Okay, because you know what, George, you're going to watch Tucker Carlson tonight.
All right, Peter, where can we be found?
We're on Locals right now. We're having a great time there. We could go to thegaggle.locals.com. We're building a community. It's really very interesting. I really like a lot of the comments. We're doing one-on-one Zoom chats with gagglers. George is in Budapest. I'm in Moscow. Keep the time difference in mind. We're also having the Gaggle store being rolled out. There'll be lots of nice, cool things there to remind us in the morning, evening, at night, maybe. And there's a new product, George, we're going to have.
A new product. Yes, the new product will be, we'll be doing Q&A with fellow gagglers. In other words, you post any questions you would like us to address, and on a regular basis, we will do maybe a weekly show answering some of these questions. I mean, I know fellow gagglers have a lot of very interesting questions and comments to make, so I'd love to start addressing them very shortly.
And the interesting thing is that when we do our one-on-ones, we have this opportunity to ask our guest questions, which we do on a regular basis, which always really is very, very interesting.
Yep, absolutely. So any help you can provide us would be most appreciated. Well, remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.